All right. Well, welcome to week 2 of the Data School Cohort 2. So the presentations this week are about the refugee crisis, and basically the instructions they got were, here's a couple of websites that have some information about this, and that's it. So very little instruction, I guess, is a good way to say it. So with that, we're going to turn over to Ben to get us started.
Hello, everyone.
And I need to make you the projector. So Ben, who are you logged in as? Ben Moss. So make you presenter. Okay. And everybody should sign in with their own name so I know who to give control to. Please. All right. I think I can see it. And then let me change over to you. What's that? All right, so let's all give Ben our attention, please. Hold on a minute. Yeah, please. Oh, it doesn't fit.
Oh, boo. We can change it. No. Click on your dash. Click automatic. There you go. Just change it. The text box. No, wait. Change the text box.
No, we're drinking those out there. First, fill this one up.
Right here.
Ben,
The screen doesn't fit after all that.
change the resolution on your computer.
It's done that.
No.
It worked before.
Oh well. It's just going to use your words.
I know.
Imagine a dashboard.
Did you get it working?
No.
Well,
Changes everything when you change the size.
Oh, if you change the size, can you just change the size of your screen?
you lose lots of
So, yeah, so. And can you just change how do you change the size of your screen? Where's your, check this.
You're right.
Maybe just bring something about that instead. Right click where?
Like the desktop.
on the desktop.
You can figure it out.
Just click automatic and then quickly change it all.
Quickly change it all.
No, not all. Like just quickly change the text. Just it was just the text box that was wrong. It was.
Just make it.
It's literally just a text box. So just make that a little bit bigger.
It's
No, you don't. Just make
there's text missing.
Yeah, but just make your text box a little bit wider.
What's that?
It doesn't.
It's
floating
okay.
anyway.
It's good enough.
There you go. There you go. Still text.
Oh, there you go. Good enough. All right, let's go.
So welcome to my presentation regarding the 19 million project. Sorry about the state of the dashboard. It did look prettier than it is now because of text issues. But yeah, Andy gave us a few links to a lot of data sets. So I went on there and I just grabbed the biggest one. So I copied everything, every year, every measure that I possibly could just to get some data together. And then the first thing I did was I took that into Tableau and created a map and put the refugee population in and also years. And then I did a pages thing so I could monitor how the population of refugees is changing over the year in specific countries. Obviously what I found was when it got to around 2014, the focus was on Syria and Afghanistan, so that's where I've placed my focus in terms of this project. So I then had to think of an idea to narrow it down. So what I thought about was doing path maps. It's something that you often see when you're doing sort of refugee or destination origin data. So that's what I looked to do. So I incorporated every single year and every single country, and it was a bit of a mess because there's lines everywhere. So then I decided to focus on a specific set of countries. So I did the EU 11, which is 11 of probably the EU's top economic countries. So yes, this is my dashboard. Across the top, you have how the population has grown over time. And it should say 19.5 million people seek refuge in 2014. 42% of these were from either Afghanistan or Syria. So obviously that's quite a significant amount. So that's where the focusing is. The text on the left shows you how to use the dashboard. Unfortunately, it's a bit cut off.
That's okay.
But basically, the first thing you do is you select an origin. So you can select between Afghanistan and Syria. And that changes the field location on the map in the grey. And then you can see the different routes. So the thickness of the line represents the number of refugees that took that route in 2014. And then the information on the left, the slope charts, on the left side of each slope chart is represented by the refugee rank. So if we go on the left side, if I hover over that one, it's Germany, that one over Germany, that one over Germany, etc. So all the ones on the left are ranked by refugee population. And on the right side, you can see the different measures. So in the top left, we've got population density. So the way I've looked at it is the ones that I've ranked them by population density or HDI, etc. And then, so what you can see is the slope will then represent whether or not a country's taking their share of immigrants.
So if it slopes down, then they're not.
So if it slopes down, the country's taking more than their share, because I sort of made it so it would go up. I reversed the rankings.
Oh, okay.
And then, so slope up, countries taking less than their share of refugees. Slope down, countries taking more than their share. And slope straight, countries taking their share. Probably could have thought of some better words.
That's okay.
But so another feature of this dashboard is when you hover over one of these countries, so the destination countries which are highlighted in white, it filters off that country, so you can see quite easily what the trend is on each of them variables. So if we go to...
So that's really interesting, because Finland their slope goes up, which means they're taking less than their share, except for the Human Development Index, where they're taking where it says they're taking less. Okay.
Yeah, I think France is quite interesting because they're relatively stable in most of them. And
yeah, so France is pretty straight.
You get Germany, which is number one, and then Sweden, they take a lot more than they should as well.
Huh.
But yeah, so that just gives a quick overview, and you can quite easily see then the patterns and trends between these two measures. One other feature that I added was that if you hover over this, it gives you the tooltip. So it also gives you a definition. So people that don't know what HDI is, which is probably quite a lot of people, it then gives you a definition of what it is.
Oh, good idea.
Which I think is quite interesting. And then again, if you wanted, you could switch to Afghanistan and do the same sort of things.
So you just chose to focus on refugees leaving Afghanistan and Syria.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to do sort of an overall one, but it would have made the map a bit too complex.
Too busy. Yeah.
And also, it would have affected these, because the way I did my data set, it would have put that in, made that a bit hectic. But yes.
I love the design of this.
Yeah, the design is really
no color, right?
Mm.
You don't have to use color.
Yeah.
The hovering over the countries and making the slope graphs highlight is brilliant. And I've never seen anybody do those are called small multiples, when you do a series of small charts like that. I've never seen anybody do that with slope graphs before. So really fantastic example. Mm-hmm. The only and I really like what you did with the map, how you have the ones in the background shaded, so you kind of know the from and the to based on whether it's shaded or not. The only thing is when you hover over your population density, for example. So you spelled refugees wrong. So fix that.
Good.
I do like how you did the definition. Okay, are you using the green year? I would use the blue year so you get even more spacing. Carl, are you referring to the bar charts? because I think, are you using continuous or discrete for your bar chart at the top?
I think discrete. Do you want me to have a look?
Sure.
I've hidden all the sheets.
Go to the, just go to the sheet. Yeah, so change it to discrete and it'll make the spacing look a little bit better. Make it discrete. And then you can just hide the axis.
The spacing was a lot better when it was before I put it on the screen as well. I think that's the main issue with the spacing.
Oh yeah. I think that's what Carl meant by that. But you see how some of the spacing, some of the white between the bars is different, so it'll help keep that consistent.
For me, the slope up, slope down thing is not intuitive because when it slopes up, it's less than their share, whereas up normally means more. So it takes me a while to kind of be like, oh, up means they're less.
So you're thinking it might be better to reverse the logic on that.
I think that would make more sense.
Okay. So really good. I love the kind of really clean design.
I think maybe we could just make the lines a little bit thinner and then they kind of stand out a little bit more on some of them as well.
On the slope graph?
On all of it actually.
Oh.
I'm not sure. Maybe on the map actually they're deliberately different sized.
Maybe change the transparency.
Their size probably.
But maybe just on the slope graph just make them a little bit thinner.
Just change the transparency so you can see this. Yeah, just hover over the countries because then it's highlighted. So.
The only thing I would have really liked to do is if you click a route, it would have filled with the slow gas as well, but I couldn't figure it out.
The other thing that you could do is on your 6 graphs on the side, so your slope charts, you know, like you've got it from the graph, the map to the graphs where you highlight over and it affects you could do it from the other way as well. So if you pick on a line, it then highlights which country that is about.
So you can have the highlighting work the opposite way as well. Yeah. But at least he gave the instruction on how the highlighting works in the tooltip or in the little instruction box there at the top. I would probably left justify all my text as well. It's easier to read if it's all left justified.
Yeah.
It's nitpicky, but it's not one of the pet peeves.
No.
It's not.
Also,
Said we need a list.
Also, I think it's sought, not seeked. But again,
I was fiddling with that. I didn't know how to. Because I don't think seek refuge is the right word. Right
if we're nitpicking about seeked versus sought, that's a good sign.
Definitely.
Let me see if there's anybody on the chat that has any questions.
How is that?
Let's see.
Would you like to show me how to do the like putting up the countries, like how they stand out and everything? That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
So Carl was saying, so if you hover over your tooltip for like Finland, so hover over Finland, you might want to like make it a little more informative.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? You might want to turn that into maybe a sentence or something.
Yeah. I think I know how to do that. Before if you asked me, I wouldn't. But I think I'll do that. Yeah.
But you could easily turn that into a sentence or something like, Finland accepted, or is that accepted?
Yeah.
So you could change. You could say Finland accepted 1,443 refugees.
What I also thought is I could even include all these ranks and details in that tool.
You could, yeah. So what on the map is that just 2014?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Because looking at the top overall, where it's about all years, I just assumed that was all years as well. So maybe a clarification on that might be good as well. And I like how he didn't really use a title, but he's got the logo on the upper right, which I think helps. Yeah. You don't necessarily need it in this case, but
because it's intuitive in this case.
Good job.
Thank you.
Well done. Good start. Da-da-da-da. I will make you the presenter.
Right, not so. Like, man,
Don't make excuses.
Spent all that time formatting. Put it on screen.
Looks like you got shot down. Looks like you. Thank you.
she's like, use.
had in it. I'm not even drank in it. I really need to learn to
Like
drink
the
this.
beer police.
I need to drive.
Now
Oh,
we're the
sorry.
beer police.
Thank you.
Now that's your sharing. There you go. Now it's sharing here. It's sharing on my computer, but it's not showing up.
It's showing up on mine.
But it's not showing up here.
Oh, sorry.
Wah, wah,
I'm
wah.
so
I can
sorry.
still read it.
I've got.
She's fired. There's one thing. There's only one thing you don't spell in the data school.
I don't know what means
Clumsy just means like no words.
At least it wasn't a
She says
laptop,
I
eh?
move approximately, not precisely.
Or a phone.
How do we get to the
The meeting?
no, to the display settings? Does anybody know?
Settings.
And then display. And we want to do, we don't want to do this, we want to do,
Tom would have been an absolute ass.
He would have been freaking out.
extend. Why is this not working?
Is it not something to do with this?
You mean is it all waterlogged now?
No.
It's not plugged in.
It worked last week. Come on. Wait, it looks like it's doing something.
I can read it. It'll more than fun. It'll try. There it is.
There you go. It's on now.
I need to. It's doing multiple displays, right? Yeah. Where is your mouse? Oh, there it is. Oh, don't click it. Oh, you just messed up. I need to change this.
Very, very
Don't move.
slow.
Well, I changed it to extend displays to see if that would work. Apply.
Oh, it's happening then. It's fixed.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want to close that. Okay.
Okay. Can I close this?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Hello. Good evening. This is my work. I want to concentrate.
Your name?
Okay. I'm Benedetta.
I'm Italian.
I'm Italian. From the center, because the other one is from the south. I want to precise. So I'm speaking about the flow toward Europe, and I want to focus especially in area that I felt all the news and I felt the sensibility and the operation out of this, so the Mediterranean passage. And the point is that Europe is living through a maritime refugees crisis of historical proportions. So in the last 2 years, we got a flow of refugees coming.
Ben took control. Hold on.
You are trying to not let me present.
I'm taking fun of everyone.
Hold on. It's coming back. Oh, she needs to share again.
So in the last 2 years, so we are focusing 2014, 2015, refugees and migrants crossed the Mediterranean Sea through traveling terrible conditions and terrible boats. And so we made this research, and a lot of people focused on this area because where they're coming from, where they are reaching Europe, basically. So I'm trying to focus in Italy, Greece, Spain, and Malta. And the interesting thing is that between 2014 and 2015, there was a big switch between Italy and Greece.
So what's the map showing me? Where people are, or is the map just for display purposes?
Yeah, it's for display the area.
And what is the bar chart telling me people that have gone to Italy and to Greece? Is that what that means? Okay.
Yes, exactly. So in 2014, if we go to Italy, we found that there was 170,000 people going to Italy. But the interesting thing that in 2015, this completely switched. to Greece, because as we will see in the next dashboard, there are 4 routes, and the Balkan routes took place and raised a lot in the 2015, whereas before Italy was the highest number of refugees. But who they are, where they're coming from. So we know that obviously they are mainly coming from Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And if you go to see this graph, I try to focus, for example, in Italy, that becomes the first place for North Africa. So we get that this is a mix of 2014, 2015. So it was
Combined.
Yes. And so we can see that the top are Nigeria, but as well Pakistan, and Mali and Gambia. So
that's where they're coming. Okay,
from.
that's from, and then Italy is where they're going to. Okay.
I couldn't specify inside the chart where they were from, so I wrote here, or I wrote on the left there are the origin countries.
You could have changed your tooltip. You can edit your tooltip to say, well, your tooltip says origin 1 and country 1. You could change that to say from and to, or something like that. Yeah.
And yes, so this is mainly how it works. And Greece, we get it that 2015 there was this big increase, and the flow goes like Pakistan, Syria, so all from the east, obviously. Yes. And in the second one, I call the desperate journey, because I want to show the 4 routes. I put together these Western Balkan and Eastern Mediterranean routes because they are all coming from Turkey and then to Greece, or Bulgaria to Greece, but we don't really know where they're coming from. So they're mainly from Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, but we don't know if they pass through Greece from Bulgaria or from Cyprus. Mm-hmm. So I put together because it was not possible to distinguish these 2 categories. And the Central Mediterranean, we mean North Africa. And the Western Mediterranean route, so we mean everything that goes to Spain, because go from Algeria. And we see the switch within 2014 and 2015, that the Western Balkan grew a lot. That's the same thing of Greece before. So people start radically to go through Cyprus and Greece.
So that stacked bar chart for Syria there, that's telling me that's the whole length of the bar, the entire bar is how many refugees left Syria, and then that's those are people that left Syria and made it in Europe and came by sea. Is that correct?
Yeah, but not just really Syria. This is at the top nationalities that are coming to Europe. Okay. So the top one is Nigeria, and this one is the Central Mediterranean. So obviously Nigeria is North Africa, so it's going to Italy from there. And Syria, we see that is Western Mediterranean route. Okay. So obviously from geographical reasons. But what I want to show is a link to the one before, that Greece in 2014 was very low. But suddenly in 2015, there was this big switch, and it was completely a mess because Greece was not absolutely ready for this. And so there was a really big problem that they analyzed. And here I want to analyze who didn't make it. So this is completely wrong, because I want to rename it another way. Okay. But
dead.
Yeah. You want just to be clear. Yeah. I had it when I was too late to do it. But anyway, here I want to show the top 10 reasons why they don't make it to Italy. And
okay. Yes. So go back over to your first tab there. One thing is, if you're using story points and you don't have enough story points where you would have to scroll kind of along the screen, you can get rid of those little arrows on either side. You can do that. But so the map on the upper left-hand side that's not doing anything, right?
No.
So
just want to highlight where this country are. Obviously, we know.
Yeah, I mean, I
think in this case it's quite good because she talks about routes, and people that don't know Europe don't know where these countries are, so you don't really get the sense in terms of.
Obviously, for me, we know where they are, but in a global point of view, I just want to show that I can highlight, and I get immediately the number here has before a dot, big dot, a bubble with the number, but then was showing the same thing on here, so it was not really meaningful for me.
So, and then you have, I guess when you do that, when you flip through your filter there, it only applies to the bar chart, correct?
Yes.
Is there a reason that you're not updating the chart on the Sankey on the right-hand side?
On this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was quite hard to manage this graph.
Okay.
And
okay. So it was kind of like pick your poison and
I'm not sure I will do again this kind of graph
Okay.
because it's really, I think it's nice, but because you get the idea, you get the names, but it's not manageable.
Yeah.
And like in this case, I thought to make it another dashboard, but then
okay.
yeah, because you can really filter and this kind of thing. Because,
Okay.
for example, this is 2014 and 2015,
Yeah.
so you cannot really filter with the other.
So Carl had suggested probably kind of removing the background on the map and just having the countries as the focus because you don't really need the rest of the map in there.
Okay.
And I do like the highlighting you had on the key, and she's got very clear instructions everywhere, which is good. Click here to do this, click here to do that kind of thing. So that's good. And go over to yours. Anybody else have any feedback on this one?
I think the chart on the Desperate Journey is really interesting.
Yeah, so let's flip over to the second one, the Desperate Journeys.
Why they aren't making it across.
Oh, and I would definitely clean up your tooltips.
Yeah.
So that tooltip where it says Origin 1, Ghana, you could easily turn that into a sentence and say,
coming from, going to.
3,811 refugees left Ghana and went to Italy, or even something like that. Make it a little more of a narrative, something like that.
Like a storyboard.
Yeah. And then go to the next, the Desperate Journey. I like the title of that too, the Desperate Journey. It kind of is very emotional. So I'm typically not a big fan of stacked bars, but in this case, I kind of like it because I'm not trying to compare the dark blues across the countries. I'm looking at each bar individually. Is that the way you're supposed to read it? Each bar individually. Like, for example, you can clearly see in Mali, almost everybody comes from central Mediterranean route, right? And then I think if you went to 2015,
you get Nigeria.
You see a very different story. You can see, like in Syria, how many people are taking the Western Mediterranean route. So in this case, I think the way that she designed it, the stacked bar works because it's forcing us to read going across instead of going down, because you can't really compare the dark blues here, right? So I think that's you can see the distributions within each country very easily this way. So that's really well done.
And I tried to use the palette of blue for the sea reasons.
Okay.
I didn't want to make so many colors because the country was more than enough.
Right.
Here I'm at black. But
for death, yeah. No, that's okay. And I like how you included that extra detail on, on kind of because of your title saying the desperate problem, you're kind of bringing out that emotion of how many people are dying from drowning just from trying to get there.
Because I called the Desperate Journey because they arrived in awful conditions, and who didn't make it happen these things. So really.
So I like your title on that where you say only a fraction make it to Europe, but I would then probably express the metric in a fraction. So what % drowned?
Yeah.
Instead, because that gives it more context than just the raw number. Does that make sense? Yeah.
On your the death one, it died from dehydrated. You can't fully see the dehydrated bits. You just need to either expand your
or rename it to just dehydration or something. Yeah.
Or just reduce you. I just think
run over by a train. Oh, that's not good. But in the news, all you heard about was all the drownings and everything, the people on those like rafts and things like that. Yeah.
I just think the Sankey chart is a bit confusing. I find it confusing. It's very.
Yeah, I find them a little hard, a little tough to read, but it's a fun exercise to try to build one. You learn a lot.
Yeah. Like you build it and then you understand the limits. Of a chart.
So Chris Love said that anybody that builds one from now on has to be able to explain the table calculations behind it.
What, the Sankey charts?
Yes. So okay, you can explain exactly what the table calculations are doing.
Can I give it a go? Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Any other feedback? Anybody? No? All right. Well done. Okay, so next up is Lorna. Lorna, make presenter. Use new hardware. Uh-oh. She not only broke your notebook, she broke your glasses. The bottle dropped on her glasses.
Did it?
She's having a rough day. We've worked her so hard this week. Her glasses
I'm just about dragging
broke.
myself to the weekend.
We'll just throw stuff at you.
I'll just go cry in the corner.
You don't see obsession on screen.
Oh boy, editing on the fly.
No, it's because the
resolution?
Yeah.
No, look.
You know what? You could just tell your computer to use the resolution of your computer instead of the resolution of the screen.
How do you do that?
I don't know, but there is a way to do it.
Does anybody know?
Go into your display settings. Displays, and then go under adjust screen resolution. And I think you can tell it to.
It says detect.
But you want to tell it to display multiple monitors and then duplicate. This is currently okay. So then go to what display settings should I use? Is that the link? That's just the help. Okay, forget that. Go to.
So just change this to what it was.
Yeah, you could. Yeah. Try that.
And in position
Is that? Did you just go the opposite way?
That's what my screen was on.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh boy. There you
go. That's nearly good enough.
Good recovery.
That'll do.
Well,
Is that okay?
if you click in Tableau, will it hide the Windows toolbar?
It's off.
Just click in your dashboard.
Oh. Click. No.
Okay. That's weird that your Windows toolbar is still showing. Or is that the Tableau?
No, that's the Tableau one.
Toolbar. Okay, good enough.
That'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So again, like.
That's 5 demerits, 1 for each pixel. You're off.
Again, just same as Ben, just kind of like got most of the data and just kind of played with it just to see what I could come up with, to see what trends there were, just to get an idea in my head what was actually going on with the data. So first of all, come up with the total population, which is the actual line that's on the graph, and then thought, right, doesn't really show much, so kind of split it up by category. So then we've got the internally displaced refugees, and then just the refugees from different countries going into that country.
So internally displaced means you were moved out of your town in your country, but you stayed in the country.
Yeah,
okay.
But just go to a different town.
Okay.
So I think it's quite good that it shows the total population is increasing from the millennium. So it's increased quite a lot. So as we can see down on this one, you can see how much it's increased. So it's the percentage population change is from the year before. So something must have really happened in 2006 to be able to say that the internally displaced refugees were higher. Like, I think it's 94% higher than the year before. So
that's year-over-year change?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it might have been better to do from the 2000 year to then see.
So something happened in 2000.
Yeah.
So the upper left graph, that's total refugee population, not total population, right?
Yeah,
refugee population. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're basically saying, okay, what's the year-over-year change in that one? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So then in the top right graph in the map, it's basically coloured by the total refugee population in that country. I limited the colour range because of some of them were really, really small amount of refugees. So it basically just shows a bit of a colour change. Up here in the top right, we can go through and select a year. So it goes through and it changes. So you can see the development over time. Also, you can change the origin.
So if you could use the Pages shelf in Tableau Public, you would do that there, right?
Completely.
Because that'd be perfect for that.
Yeah. So then go back to the origin. Right. So the bottom right graph is basically showing the so it's the origin to where the refugees are going to. So then if you hover over a country, it then automatically changes to go to that country in the bottom graph. So it'll show you all the different routes of that country. So Afghanistan, and just shows you the different countries. And then also if you do from destination, it goes from how many people are coming from the outside to that country. So we can just.
So the first one was people leaving. This one's people coming to.
Yeah.
So in this example, you're looking at people going to China.
Yes.
On the bottom right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So then it just shows you, and then that's it. Ta-da.
We throw the UK on there.
People coming to the UK.
Specifically.
There you go.
Everywhere.
So notice what happened with your tooltip there?
Yeah, not Million. It's because I changed the reference.
Right. So that's kind of one of the tricky things is how do you do the formatting and still get it to show a reasonable number? It's kind of.
I've only just realized that.
You're almost like pick your poison, right?
Yeah.
I really like. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's actually two different maps in here.
Mm-hmm.
So she's using a parameter on the upper right to show and hide a map based on the metric that was chosen.
A lot of she changes the symbols as well, so it makes it really clear.
Yeah. I like that as well. And notice how do you see her legend above her bottom right, where she's got the circle and the square, so you can tell the difference. So that's really well done. Did you find the ASCII shapes for those? So how you did it with the?
What?
Did you put like an ASCII character in there?
Just a symbol. No.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't. Sorry. Just a symbol.
Yeah. Really good. I like one of the things I don't like about the way Tableau does area charts is you get that gap on the sides. Mm-hmm. There's nothing you can do about that.
You can change the year to continuous, and then you can get rid of it.
I think it still sticks though.
Nope.
If you
because I did have it originally like that.
As continuous.
Yeah. Oh. So if you change this to.
See.
And but then you can edit your reference.
Edit
your axis.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is it'd be nice if it just filled it up automatically.
Yeah.
That's what I was meaning to say. So you could force it, right?
Because I did originally have it like that.
Yeah, I think I like that.
But then all my marks have now. All my marks.
All your marks are gone, right? So you undo until you get back to the way you like it, right? I like how you put the labels on there. You have the total population kind of for reference. So Carl was saying that he'd like to see on the chart maybe some. I'm assuming he means on the total population chart, some reference lines for things like, when did the Afghan war start, and when did on the area line chart, and when did the Syrian conflict start? So you can put reference lines in there so that it makes it, but then you would have to it would have to be a continuous axis. I'm typically not a big fan of doing the bar and the lines on the chart on the bottom left because you don't have a scale for your population. So I don't know. I find it a little bit distracting, but you made it gray, so it kind of pushes it to the background, so you have it there just for reference. But
it's just
so you just have to kind of be careful when you use that because it can get kind of a mess. Pay attention to your tooltips. So hover over your tooltips on the map on the bottom right. So that doesn't tell me how many people came and went, so that might be good to include in there. Is to put on there, and then so just kind of pay attention to. It's generally the last thing you do, and it takes the most time. Is doing that kind of cleanup, or at least to me, it feels like it takes the most time. But I like the dark. I think the dark background, but not black, really works well here. Great titles. using the symbol, the logo up there.
The font's really good as well.
Yeah, it's not Arial, is it? The font?
Arial narrow.
Arial narrow. Okay. Yeah, it looks slightly.
I tried to match it
different.
to that one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But it's obviously not quite.
Yeah,
Or
it's
back
close
with
though.
ease.
Yeah.
Huh?
The ease back.
Well, no, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, you have to have all your E's backwards. Yeah. Really, really well done. I like that. Notice how she just used like one color of blue for the whole graph.
Mm-hmm.
So, really good, kind of minimalist use of color too. So.
I think the only thing I'd say is, it's not a problem with you, but when the gaps are 2 million, to show a 2 million gap with any amount of shade and colour is quite difficult.
It is, yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think
that's
you're
why.
doing the best you can.
Yeah.
But it's on, say, on Afghanistan, it's 4 million, and
Yeah.
I think like these
So
are all
you just
higher.
limited the top of your scale
Yeah.
to 2 million. Yeah.
Just because it was just ridiculous, and you couldn't tell the difference in the colour change at the.
All you
smaller
saw
end of
was
scale.
the very extremes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And notice she did put a note on there by her color legend where she limited the color range. So not deceiving the readers that way, right?
So yeah, I laid that data on, and my map was just white apart from Syria and Afghanistan.
Well, that's what you were experiencing as well. Yeah.
So yeah, that's good.
Cool. Well done. Good job.
I do wish Tableau would not ignore Greenland though. It really annoys me on any field map you do, it just sees Greenland blank.
There are people on Greenland. There are people on Greenland.
Yeah, well, it belongs to part of Denmark as well, so it should be good. So.
It's so
Yeah,
bizarre
but
how
then
it's part
if you
of
have
Denmark.
that, then if you're doing something on population density and you include Greenland, your stats are going to be outrageous.
Like the old.
Oh.
You can download the stuff map.
I don't know. Can you?
I just didn't want to break it with my superior strength. Right, hello. It's working okay? Cool, so I wanted to...
Share you gotta share.
Oh, okay.
On, no share.
On the thing, okay.
Cool. If you don't share, will anybody see it?
So that one. Okay. I think I'm sharing.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
There we go.
Wait.
There we go. Okay.
No.
No? What's wrong with it?
It was for
Go
a
back to
second.
your. Go back to that and hit the little share. Just do entire screen because when you put it in presentation mode, it thinks it's a different application.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when I do entire screen, it freaks out. Forgot about that.
Awesome. So now you just got booted out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sign back in.
Okay, have you not got the app?
I do.
Click on your search bar at the bottom.
It's okay. I'm just gonna do this. Click the link Andy sent because it's just faster than going to the app, I think.
When it works.
Mm-hmm. It's just always some kind of. Okay.
Wait, do I need to change I need to switch to the new Anuka that's in the presentation.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just go to this then.
Try it. See what happens.
Oh, you won't be able to go in presentation mode though.
Oh, you know what? Maybe put it in presentation mode first and then do Alt-Tab.
Okay, so presentation mode.
And then do Alt-Tab to flip over and then see it.
Okay.
There you go. That one.
Yeah.
Okay.
See if it shows up.
Yes.
Woo.
Perfect. Good to go.
Hello, I'm Anuka. I wanted to look at it from, say you're a woman in Syria And life is pretty
I'm a
rough.
woman in Syria.
Yes.
And life is pretty rough.
Life is pretty rough out there. Bombing.
Oh, I thought she was asking us to repeat.
No, you don't have to repeat.
Oh.
And you're thinking, you know, my cousin Jim's gone over to Europe. Nickname. He's gone over to Europe. Jeremy's gone over to Europe with his family. And I'm thinking of taking my family over there because things are not good here. So I want to ask myself, what if I were to go to Europe, what's the best route I can take? So I just want to firstly give this bar chart just to show relatively how many people have decided to make journeys to Europe over time. And you can see this big spike in 2014. And then there are about 8 routes. And by far, Central Mediterranean is the most popular, especially in 2014. I've highlighted every 2014 just to compare them because some of them are very small, like those two. So Central Mediterranean, very, very popular. That's basically going from like the northern tip of Africa to Greece. So that's when you hear about all those people going to Lesbos and all that kind of thing. And then here's a little map, and in it you can select the countries. So there's Syria, and these are data points of routes people have previously taken, and they're sized and coloured by how expensive the journey was, by average price that would be in euros. I converted all the currencies to euros. So you can see this. Going to Germany was by far the most expensive. Going to Spain, not too bad, £7,000.
So what's the colouring mean on the
euros?
map?
I mean, so colouring. So the darker, the more expensive the journey was.
And what's the size mean?
And the size is the same thing. So I just wanted to emphasise it. So you can click on another country.
So the most expensive is actually the fat.
The fat dark one is the most expensive. Yeah.
Right, but that's not Germany.
That's the route someone took from Syria to Germany.
No, there's one behind it.
Balkans or Hungary.
Below that, below Germany.
Oh, this one, yeah, to Italy. Yeah. So Syria to Italy. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you can change it to, I don't know, Iraq. And you can see it's a massive fat one to Germany. So, yep, so that just kind of gives you some historical data. And you can see the average price of a crossing in general has gone up over time massively, presumably because demand has been quite high. So the smugglers have been like, oh, we can charge a bit more. And people are so desperate to get over to Europe that, you know, we can charge more. And this is the same data Benedetta had, which was the cause of death by route. And by far the biggest one is drowned. So Western Mediterranean, that's like here to here. Loads of people drown in that one. Central Mediterranean as well. Like that's sort of that way. Eastern Mediterranean that way. So lots of deaths in the Mediterranean. So probably not the best to take your kids on that one, if possible. Western African, that's like sort of going this way. Quite a lot of drowning still. Puglia and Calabria, that's sort of this one here. But what if you're not there though? And then Western Balkan route, that's sort of this way around. Pretty good. Eastern borders is actually going into, so like this way. That's pretty good. So all in all, you guess from this, Eastern borders, Western Balkans is probably the safest route to take, and not many people take it, so it's cheaper. Yeah, that's all really.
So if you go down to your, down the bottom, typically, we say to sort of avoid scrolling dashboards with this. It's like separate stories as you go through, so it works okay. Do you on this line chart? Do you have that by country, or is it just an aggregate?
No, I think it was all just, there was just very little data for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Forget it then.
Yeah, it was all very. I spent loads of time cleaning, and even then, it just wasn't that great because it was just the data was so jumbled.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you'll learn a lot of you're gonna kick yourself next week when you learn Alteryx, and you'll be like, I wish I'd.
I'm gonna be like, thank God, I've got this now.
Yeah. So the only thing I would be cautious about using the same color scheme on your causes of death that you're using on your map, because people might assume that those are related when they're not. So be careful of that. And I also don't know what the different colors mean.
Well, they're just different causes of death. So.
Well, I know, but that doesn't. I'm not told that anywhere.
Yeah.
So, no, but what are so within the Western
Mediterranean
route,
there's
different
drowned,
things,
starved,
right? But I don't know what those mean.
hypothermia, asphyxiated.
Yeah.
As in, like, what starved and hypothermia mean? Or?
No. Like, there's no legend.
Yeah, there's no.
Oh,
to
right,
To tell me what each of them.
Yeah, I
means.
probably should have said like hover over them to see what the cause of death was.
Yeah, or include a legend.
Yeah, it's just the colours. I found it really hard to pick ones that didn't look terrible on this background.
Okay.
So yeah, that was just a colour thing.
Okay.
For me.
Okay. You could even just use shades of grey.
Yeah, I think it's just the grey. I wanted to keep the sort of like brown red.
Okay.
Colour scheme going.
All right.
Because I wanted to look like someone like this woman was writing on parchment, which is why I chose this sort of
Greekish font.
Yeah, because other handwriting fonts were just unreadable. So.
Okay. You scroll back up to the top.
Yep.
Now you said that, the format makes more sense.
Isn't the top graph the same as the bottom graph, except it's split up by root?
The top and the bottom left.
Top and the second graph.
Yeah, I just wanted to do it like story points. So like firstly, you can see loads more people are going now. And then secondly, what is the most popular route? I just wanted to answer those questions like step by step.
Okay.
I like that you highlighted the points to like emphasise the difference in years. So you highlighted every 2014 and showed how big it is now.
The outlines.
So you'll also notice that for her second chart, there are different sizes for the regions, which basically means that there's either zeros or the data is missing. So just be careful with that because it makes the scales look a little weird. Your date scale looks weird. So you can tell Tableau to show the missing values so that all of those would be the same size.
Okay.
With what each region or each route would be the same size.
I think maybe dual axes would help on both of them as well, just so that when you're right over the far on 2014, you can see easily what the value is.
Oh, you mean just for visual reference?
Yeah.
Or put like grid lines on it.
Yeah.
So you're saying when you get to 2014, it's kind of hard to know, is that near 20, especially sitting down below it.
Yeah.
To me, it looks like it's miles above 250K from here, but it might even be below it. I don't know. It's kind of hard to.
Okay.
So having a reference line or having a one on the right.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is when you scroll down, the cause of death.
Yeah.
So I think I just wonder if it might be that, for example, the Western Mediterranean route, maybe it has more drowning deaths just because it happens to be the more popular route that people take. So I wonder if it would be better to just be a weighted average.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way you can understand if it's really is it just because of the magnitude of it or is it actually?
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Also, are any of them routes over land? Because obviously.
Yeah, some of them are overland. Yeah.
Obviously, the drowning.
Yeah, but then there are other things like some people bled from like barbed wire or something, like died through bleeding of barbed wire.
Lovely. That's
so that's probably overland.
Yeah.
So
we talked about how you're kind of missing a color legend on the causes of death there. I think you're also missing a color legend on the map. Right. So I don't know what the colors mean.
I put it in the here large dark lines equals more expensive.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I'd put that underneath your title rather than next to it.
Because
at first I completely missed that. I saw the title, but then just went straight onto the
graph.
graph.
I didn't see that.
So just put it underneath.
I'll put it underneath.
Yeah.
I do like how you highlighted the most recent year in the bar charts. It's a nice touch. So, anything else? Anyone? All right. Well done.
Thank you.
Your dad's on line 9?
Yeah, I think my dad and my mom.
And I don't see you on the.
Oh, you don't. I should be.
Does anybody see Nye on the? Maybe you're Tom Brown. Did you sign in as Tom Brown?
Maybe I did. I don't. I just went in and it automatically put me in.
Parents' names?
Suzanne and Ramsey. Why?
Suzanne
There's a
My
Suzanne.
instant messenger.
There's a Suzanne, but I don't see a Ramsey.
He might be the Android user that keeps coming in and out.
There's always a mysterious Android attendee. There
Yeah,
was one of the
yeah.
last ones as well.
It's probably my dad.
As well.
Yeah, it was really creepy.
I think I made you presenter.
Yeah,
I
have
somebody
a
named
prompt.
Tom Brown
Just be
presenter.
right when
Yeah,
it's
I have a prompt. Not right now. I'm gonna go screen. Show screen. Is it
Yes.
Okay.
Good to go.
okay, so.
Do you want to say hi to your mom and dad first?
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
I think they're the first parents to attend
Yeah.
these sessions.
Yay!
Robbie's parents don't claim him, so that's why his name is going.
So I'm not Tom. My name is not Tom. My name is Nye. I don't know why I'm showing up as Tom in the meeting, but yeah. So I'm going to be talking to you guys today about GDP and kind of comparing that to the rates of refugees that have been accepted by each country. So what the reason this came about was because of a social media campaign called #RefugeesWelcome. And on the screen you can see two examples of what they did. And basically they were just looking at data and using it to visually address some common objections that people have when we're talking about refugees coming to Europe. So the objection that I really wanted to address was this idea of, we can't have refugees, we can't afford it, they'll break our economy just can't handle it. So essentially that's what I'm going to be exploring today. So when we first look at our data, on the left side we have countries organized by GDP per data.
Per capita.
Per capita.
Per data.
Per capita. And on the right side, we have the total number of incoming refugees. So this completely disregards internally displaced refugees. So if we look at it, we can see that the top ones are not necessarily proportional to the number of incoming refugees. Like you can see Qatar has like nothing for the number of incoming refugees. And then if you scroll down, the ones that do have a lot of refugees coming in are kind of lower on the GDP list.
So poor countries are taking in, that gives you the impression that the longer bars being down the bottom on the right-hand side mean that poor countries are taking in more than rich countries. Okay.
Exactly. So another way we can compare this is using the sloped rank that Ben kind of showed us. And so sloped ranks, you kind of have to wrap your brain around it, but I'll try to walk you through it. So basically what we have here, on the left side, we have countries ranked by their GDP, where the lower the number of the rank, the higher their GDP. So for example, if we look at the top one right here, it's Qatar. Qatar ranks number 1 in terms of GDP per capita, which means out of this data set, they have the highest GDP. And then on the flip side, refugee ranking, again, if they're number 1, it means that they have taken the highest number of incoming refugees.
Okay.
So to make it a little simpler to understand, if you look at the legend over here, green indicates that they have a high acceptance of refugees compared proportionally to their GDP per capita, and then orange means a low acceptance compared to their GDP per capita. So ideally, if we're using this argument of GDP means anything for how many refugees we should be taking in, we would want to be seeing these bars being completely straight and flat, but that's not actually what we're seeing. And then geographically, when we look at it, you can see on this graph, it's the same idea. The green are taking in more refugees and a high acceptance rate for refugees. The orange is a low acceptance rate for refugees. And then, of course, with this, we also have it sized by the number of refugees. So you can see the biggest bubbles are green, and they're also kind of in the Middle Eastern area with Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan. So, I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that that's what's happening. But I mean, we can kind of zoom in on Europe as well and see how they're doing. And when we zoom in, we see that the bubbles are quite small and they're all orange except for, again, Turkey. I think Latvia is one of them.
So
Bosnia.
anything that's green means you're taking more than your fair share.
More than your fair share of refugees when you
compared to your GDP,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So,
So the argument of people saying we're already taking in too many.
Exactly, it doesn't hold
right.
water. So then when we put it all together, you can see it as a dash, and you're not supposed to be able to scroll. I swear that was not possible when I when I finished this today. But I swear. So which country took 6 refugees? Well, there's
one. Can you not click on it and it will highlight?
No, not these, but you
It's
can
probably
click
down the bottom.
down
right.
here.
Yeah.
Madagascar. Yeah, so this isn't just Syrian refugee data, by the way. This is like a composite of refugee data. We can look at the G8 here. And
the rank, right?
Yeah, like the top 8 by GDP. And then you can see they're all orange. Okay, well, at what point do we get a green line to come up? Let's see, top 10. Nope. Top 20. Nope. Top 30. Nope. It's actually, I think, 35 or 36 or something. 36, let's say. Yeah. There it is.
The prevalence of the
Venezuela.
What's
that?
Green everywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the map really helps that stand out.
It really shows in Western Europe and North America taking.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is, I feel like it's kind of, like I said, addressing that objection that we shouldn't take refugees because their GDP, because our economy can't handle it. But when you look at the countries that are taking the most refugees, their GDP is minuscule compared to the UK or Qatar even.
I wonder how much of that could be related to the cost of living, though, as well. So if you're a refugee leaving, you probably have no money.
Right.
So is it easier to start a new life in a cheaper country, perhaps?
Right. Yeah. Possibly. Definitely could do this again.
But you would also have different access to healthcare and things like that. So
interested to map politics on this as well. So obviously you've got the EU, and most of them are small orange. Maybe there's obviously other councils around the world which you can use.
Possibly, yeah. Lots of ways you could take this a little bit farther.
I really like it.
Thank you.
You introduced the hashtag scheme.
Yeah.
I would perhaps use that color.
The color scheme. Yeah, this is actually based off of. So the color scheme. The reason I chose this was it's if you type in Syria data in Google Images, you get a really nice. Thank you. You get this really nice image showing like some of the data. It's a data image. It's not like an infographic. It's just one image. But I thought I'd base it off of that. But yeah.
So perhaps you could use
the red.
Colors,
Yeah, totally.
Personally, I like 2 things of this. I like the 2 colors everywhere, like half acceptance and low acceptance, so it's really clear which one.
Yeah.
And I like even big capital titles and letters even over the map for the countries, so it's not hard to read. It's easy and intuitive.
I really like that you tidied up tooltips as well.
Yeah, her tooltips are really nice. So, and she did a really good use of story points here too. So story points are supposed to be used to tell a story, right? A beginning, a middle, and an end. And she has a great introduction here, right? You clearly can tell what the story's about. Then she goes through some different use cases and then closes it with the interactive where people can kind of do their own exploration. So I think that's an excellent use case of story points. So yeah, well done.
Yeah, as what you could see with Ben's presentation, slope ranks are kind of tricky to explain because you really have to wrap your brain around the fact that number 1 is not like 1 as a number is not it's high in GDP.
Right. I like what they can represent in those seconds.
Yeah.
Because like you said, as soon as you put that colour in, you see a trend.
Exactly.
You don't really need to know anything.
You don't need to know what it means beyond that color.
Ideally, everything should be straight across.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's interesting that there's really none that go straight across, right?
None of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either they're taking too little or taking too much if we're using GDP as an indicator.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Jules. Did he just he bailed.
He ran.
Should we do his presentation for him? Who wants to get on his computer and start his presentation? You should have shown the yummy, yummy donuts.
I should have.
She left her computer on yesterday, so I left her a note inside of the donut jar.
Said yummy, yummy donuts.
Who's the person who left?
I think that's either my aunt or my uncle. I'm not sure.
So, is that?
Yeah, my whole family's watching.
Is he coming back, or should we skip him?
Yeah,
and come
yeah,
back?
yeah.
Okay. Should we applaud for him when he comes in?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
You're up. Let's go.
That's why I left the room. Is that wrong?
Yep.
Thanks, Mom. Tom Brown. What's the number of attendees tumble now?
It's getting creepy. Yeah, just let me change the.
So you
Where's
need
the?
the adapter there as well.
Yeah, click on the arrow.
On
On the arrow.
the arrow, what you mean?
How can I fix my name?
Sign under your own name next time. It'd be an easy way.
Well, it automatically signed me in, so I was like, oh,
That'd be
okay.
an easy way to
Hey,
fix
grab
the
that
problem.
picture. Grab the picture.
Did I? There's something. Well.
He's hurting the.
Don't worry, it's only in that.
Can you share your desktop? Share your screen?
Yeah.
No, on the.
It's because it's a tribute to your vids just from the first page.
Yeah. Did he steal an idea of yours? Is that what you're saying?
Huh?
Did he steal something of
The
yours?
picture.
Oh,
Sorry, it's gone.
steal like
from
an
the
artist,
rest-
right?
Yeah. It's gone from the rest of the pages now. I
It
just made
is
that
their
happen.
logo, to be fair.
It's not actually her design.
So we've had hi, I'm Jules, to everyone watching. So we've had a few different angles on how refugees have travelled to different locations. I'm going to look at it from the point of view of if you're a refugee, where ideally would you have wanted to go if you had some data available to you that would help you make that decision, versus where refugees ended up in reality. So this involved using two different data sets which had to be blended, and unfortunately the two data sets disagreed on the number of refugees, and they also disagreed on which countries existed in the world and which didn't. So some countries are missing from the data set. So for those of you with photographic memories, you'll remember all the stats I'm about to tell you. Don't go and quote them in the pub afterwards. You could get found out. Anyway, so here's a map of the world, and you might be wondering, yeah, so we've seen a few good maps there, I think this top 7. You might be wondering why I've chosen such a morbid colour for it, because this is one way to look at the world, and that's looking at the current refugee crisis in 2014. So the red represents all countries which over 100,000 refugees originated from in 2014. And you can see it's pretty big portion of the map. And these are all the countries where they went in 2014, with the dark blues showing the countries which had more external refugees, so refugees coming from other countries in those countries. So obviously, if you're a refugee, how would you choose where to go? So can anyone think of, well, actually you can probably read it. So some things you might consider if you're looking to relocate to another country is your quality of life there. So are you at risk from natural disasters, what's your chance of getting a job, what's the healthcare like, what's the education like for your children, etc. And one way you can do this is via the Human Development Index, which is basically just a composite score of various factors to ascertain a country's quality of life. And then you can rank countries using these indexes or indices. So these are the ones I picked. So population affected by natural disasters, public health, the amount a country spends on public health, amount they spend on education, homicide rate as a crime analysis, and what your chances of getting employed are. So this is for everyone in the population over 15, what percentage are employed. And then we have this bullet chart, this chart at the top, which shows a rank of countries by their percentage of the total global external refugee population. And we have these sliders on the right. So we have their rankings for where they are in the education index, employment index, health index, and homicide index and disaster index. So what we can do is we can see if there are any countries which match criteria which we decide. So I'm going to choose the top 100 countries for education, the top 100 for employment, top 100 for health, top 100 for health. And obviously for these two, it's going to be the bottom because we want the ones that are having the fewest homicides and fewest natural disasters. So I'm going to do 100 for that one, and 100 for disasters. And so the countries that then pop up are all the countries which match all of those criteria.
I think you need to hit enter.
There we go. And the number in brackets at the end is where they rank. And so, sorry, on the x-axis we've got their percentage of total global external refugees, and the rank is where they rank in the world for global refugees. So Germany is 15th for external refugees located in the country. And what I mean by external refugees is total number of refugees in a country minus the internally displaced population. So we're not counting refugees, they've just changed city or town. And it's quite interesting. So you can see that, for example, the top 100, we have about around 10 to 15 countries that meet that criteria. And so what's interesting is how many refugees are actually ending up in these kind of idealistic locations. So the top rank is 15. So they're going, Germany is the 15th highest out of all the, is number one for ideal in terms of
the criteria you entered,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And then we can look at where they actually end up in real life. And we can see Turkey is the highest. And we can look where Turkey ranks for all these indices. So it's about 113 for education. It's around the hundreds for education, employment, and health. And then in the top 60 for the least homicides and natural disasters. And then you can look, unfortunately not all the data is available.
So this is telling us we don't even see Germany, US, and Sweden, even in the top three in the graph at the top for based on your criteria, aren't actually where people are coming from or going to.
Yeah, so we could see that because Germany's ranked 15th, we should see it.
When we get to top 15.
Yeah.
Okay, 17.
Because the data is blending and it's taking countries that aren't in.
This is the warning, the advisory at the beginning, right? Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to do my viz, just to explore where you'd want to go as a refugee to where most of them actually end up.
Cool.
Any questions?
I really like how you walked us through kind of all the setup stuff, really, and almost using it like PowerPoint, right? And just kind of setting the story and telling us. And then, I think the color choices here are really good because it separates the sections, right? Mm-hmm. So that the top and the bottom are really two different stories. So he's got a little bit of a space in between them, but also the colors help differentiate them as well.
And I like that you can play around with top education, top employment.
Yeah.
It's really interactive and
yeah.
You would stay there to fix parameters and to see what you
And he makes it an exploratory bit where he says, "Where would you go?" So he's encouraging.
Encouraging, yeah, right.
I think that one thing is, if anything, this is if there's ever a base case for using story points, this is to sort of use those to sort of help you walk through the story.
Yeah, so initially, obviously last week I used story points, but then when I was watching Carl do his yesterday, I quite liked how you can just...
Yeah, I prefer.
I like this because you can compare the information very easily.
As presenting, I find it easier to
Just click through.
Yeah.
Compare maybe as I did.
So a couple small things. So when you hover over like Germany, for example, at the top, and you'll see your first percentage there is unbelievably precise.
Yeah.
So probably rounding that is okay. Jeremy, yeah. And probably make the title
German precision
bigger. Like on the where would you go? Make it bigger, make it more prominent as a title for the visualization.
Yeah.
And then probably what I would probably do is have where would you go bigger, and then the rest of it that's in brackets on the second line and the smaller, like maybe the size it is now, but make the title bigger. And then on the right-hand side, one of like your bottom for homicide is, and disasters are both cut off.
Yeah, it wasn't on my laptop.
Okay. So they all say. Cool, but I really like how you included all of the additional information in the tooltips. That's very, very helpful for people. Yeah.
I was just wondering.
Ravaldinho. Wow.
Would it be better to for these would it be better to have it all as top and then just rank?
What's that?
Is it confusing that suddenly you're going from ranking?
I don't think so, because you wrote in there that they were for the top or the bottom. Because the two that you wrote bottom for, it makes sense. Those are places where you're less likely to be killed in a homicide, right?
Yeah.
So bottom for homicide means that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're trying to keep them all in a positive light, which I think is good. Yeah.
Maybe you have to teach Andy how to fit all business screens.
Well, it's your laptops. It's the laptop resolutions. You need to just pick a resolution and stick to it.
Yeah, but even then mine was a bit.
Yeah, but the resolution on our laptops is not. Yeah.
So my laptop is.
We need to have 4K screens.
Let's scale to default mode display. Mine's 1440 by 900.
Yeah, that doesn't fit on ours.
Yeah, the actual shape of our monitor, of our laptops is different to the screen.
All right, well done. All right, Simona.
I think someone asked a question in the chat.
Oh, so somebody asked, what's the general consensus for underlined titles? I generally, personally, don't underline my titles. I think it's more personal preference. I don't know if there's any like real rules or anything like that. They forced you to underline in school, so that's just your habit from school. Yeah. I sometimes find the underlines a little distracting. Do you need the underline if you're bolding it? Probably not. I think it's just personal preference.
Oh yeah, my mom said you guys all rock.
Thank you, Susan.
It's Suzanne, not Susan. Does your mom ever get mad about that? If somebody calls her Susan instead of Suzanne?
Not mad, but she's like, it's not
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, Ravaldinho, reveal yourself.
probably Ravi, yeah.
I think it's Ravi, yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So,
This bunch is way smarter than you guys, Ravi. You would have your DS1 would have never figured out who Ravaldinho is. Okay.
So, I decided to focus on the position of the UK about the refugees crisis. So, based on the newspapers and some surveys I found online, and what we know about the Syrian crisis of the last month, the perception we could have had from the newspapers and the news is actually that the UK has already taken a lot of refugees. and basically we don't want any more refugees. Based on a survey I found, the population in UK does not want extra Syrian refugees. So the question I asked myself was, okay, is it true that actually the UK has already taken so many people, so they cannot afford to take more? So as we know, the number of refugees between 1951 and 2014 has sharply increased due to some crises, and in particular in 2014 there is a sharp increase because of the war in Syria. If we look at the top 10 European countries based on the number of refugees, basically it seems that the United Kingdom is positioned quite well compared to the other European countries. Okay, Turkey has these peaks because of the war on the war in Syria.
And what do the dots mean on here? Are those the countries they're coming from?
The dots basically are the number of refugees by year.
Okay, so each dot represents a year. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I calculated then the ratio of refugees to population for 1 million people to adjust that value. And it's possible to see that the United Kingdom disappears basically. So doing in particular a comparison with the ranking and considering 15 countries in Europe, we can see that considering the ranking based on number of refugees and the one based on the ratio, the position of the United Kingdom changed drastically. So basically my point was, okay, so we are complaining like with there is no point in the complaining on not taking so many refugees.
So if the complaint would be valid if they were 1, 2, or 3
exactly,
on the right hand side.
Exactly.
Okay.
But at the end, if you see this ratio of refugees over the population,
right.
Then.
So looking at this, the two countries that could make that legitimate complaint would be Sweden and Austria.
Sweden, Austria, right? Switzerland,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
While, however, if we look at the interactive map, it's possible to see going through the year that if it were.
Oh.
What's happening?
It's chugging along.
Yeah.
For the first time, right? Okay, now we'll go faster.
Okay. So, going through the years, it's possible to see that Sweden has always been the country actually taking a lot of refugees, like also Germany. And if we arrive in 2014, basically we have that the refugees, the ratio, refugees ratio basically is quite the same as the one of the Turkey in 2014. So while United Kingdom has a really small number, I mean, Switzerland basically has 5 times the number of refugees compared to the one of United Kingdom. And we also we can interact with the graph and see how the number changes over time for each country.
Oh, look at that dip! Wow.
Yeah.
What happened then?
So there's a big drop off in the 90s.
Yeah, and then,
an increase,
2004 is.
I wonder why it went from 2000. Why it took such a big drop in 2004.
Is that the Iraq War?
No, that started before 2004.
Depression.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting to do this analysis to understand if the complaint about the number of taking more refugees was or not consistent.
Yeah, yeah. I think a neat way to, so if you go back to your comparison with ranking,
Yeah.
so again, I like how you focus just on the UK through the whole story. You know, it's kind of, she did a really good job introducing the story at the beginning. I'm just wondering if this might be another example where a slope graph might be useful, because she could have all of the lines gray except for the UK. You know, kind of doing the highlighting. That might be an additional way to. I like this as well because you can see where it ranks. The only thing that confused me here is that when I first looked at the titles, it says ranking based on number of refugees, and I assumed that the bars represent the length of the bar represented the ranking, but the length of the bar on the left one is actually the number of refugees, right?
Well.
So the bar chart on the left is the number of refugees.
Yeah, ranking.
But the label says the rank number, and there's no axis. So I don't. So you should either show the axis or maybe put the ranking in the column next to it, or you know, to have it. I'm sorry, in the rows, and then have the You can do it a couple different ways, but it's a little confusing to me to have the ranking as the label for the bar, yet the bar length doesn't represent that without a scale.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I did it this way because I just wanted to focus on the position.
Yeah.
So I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carl said it feels very balanced as a piece of work, no emotion, kind of blue color, just laying out the facts. Very nice work, Simona. And he said, similar to before, he'd like to see some historical events or political party things, you know, as a way to maybe be an indicator for some of those changes. So, again, you know, that comes with time. You know, you know, if you had another week to work on it, that kind of stuff would be easier to add. You know, I think she did a fantastic use of color in the whole visualization.
I was going to say, I really like the blue on the top.
The only thing is, I think if you go back to your box plots.
Which one? Sorry?
The box plot.
The box.
Either one of them.
The
box plot, where you had the list of countries.
Okay.
So I think it would have been useful to continue to just only have the UK as blue and have all the other dots as gray.
Yeah.
That might have been to continue to just keep that theme through the whole visualization.
Would this not have been better flipped?
Possibly.
I don't think it's the best use of it.
Well, I mean, the point is to see the distribution and the number of people. Yeah. Another way to look at this might even just be with a line chart that just highlights that where all of the countries are on there and they're all gray except for the UK. There's lots of different ways, but but her purpose for this was just to show the distribution and so the UK, you know, generally it's kind of it's much more squished together than some of the other countries. Yeah.
Okay.
Ravi said to maybe make the box plots narrower.
Don't listen to Ravi. Rule number 1. That's my pet peeve list. All right, well done. Good job.
Okay.
It's much more fun when they're muted and they can't talk back. All right, last one.
I'm coming up here. What do I need?
You need your computer for one.
Got that.
Yourself.
And you
For
need
two.
this one.
I need that one.
You need this one, Rob.
Are you going to present from
Yeah,
everything?
present for next one. You got one slide.
Oh.
Oh, right. So, there's a HDMI.
What do you like to
What are you doing?
And is this a classic case of saving the best for last, or are we in for a big letdown?
Well, when I used to do bit younger, our teacher always used to say, last one, best one. But I don't want to say that because that's too harsh. But is that right?
Oh, sorry, my fault. And then you need to share your desktop.
Yeah, I think I did that.
I don't see it.
Here you do. It's just blank.
Oh. Oh, it's blank on purpose.
It's blank.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. I didn't. This is the cleanest visualization I've ever seen.
Yeah. So this is my visualization. Everyone's here.
All right, guys, you ready?
So my approach when I saw the data set, we looked at the Simon Rogers page, exactly, and there wasn't really very much information in there. There was a page on origins, there was a page on destinations, and there was another page, which I can't remember what I had on there. And I went to the UNHCR website, and I just figured there was a lot of data in there, going back to the 50s. Like, the world is different in the last, we've had lots of different eras. In terms of refugees and stuff, we're basically in the post 9/11 era. Just for people leaving halfway through the presentation.
Isn't this the equivalent of a root canal?
So
Can't win this week.
no, exactly. At least my girlfriend's not pissed off.
Yes.
She's not here this time. So I felt there was just too much information in there. There was lots of data about refugees, lots of data about asylum seekers, lots of data about internally displaced. I think the definition between the three is definitely blurred quite heavily, depending on depending on what you look at. So a couple of nights ago, I looked at the World Health Organization, and they have completely different definitions of things and completely different numbers for everything. So I wanted to try and keep it fairly simple. So I had a look on Twitter. I follow a guy called John Byrne Murdoch, who's a really excellent data journalist at Financial Times. He is part of the 19 Million project. I remember seeing his pictures when he went to Rome about a month or so ago. So I went there to go and see if I could get some inspiration around what he did, what people he worked with did.
So your initial thinking was to try to sort of replicate something you may have seen.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get an idea.
Or get an idea for.
Yeah, there was so much information. So little information, or different kind of information. I wanted to kind of see what other people had done, what they come up with, and whether there was a chance to sort of find some more information, some more ideas from there. And so, and so I came across.
Yada yada.
That's why it was blank, so I could just waffle on without you being like, oh. So why is this? So I came across this Sankey graph. It's not actually by him, but it was something that linked through from one of his pages. Okay. I know there's a lot of debate around the use of Sankeys, but as soon as I saw this, actually, it really drew my attention. I really like the way, I think the data is probably for last year, looking at the numbers, or maybe a straddle of last year and this year. I really like the way they've kind of broken it out into individual different segments. So on the left, you've got where people are coming from, nicely blocked out, and on the right-hand side, you've got where they're going. And you can really see with the definition of where it starts, where it ends. Don't get me wrong, I think there's too much information on here. You've got people coming from Serbia, you've got people coming from Ukraine, which is kind of, they're kind of two different stories. You've kind of got the Middle East, and the Ukraine is a specific example. I don't know why people are leaving Serbia. I'm sure there's a really good reason. But I think there's just a little bit too much on there. So my first sort of thought was, okay, I really like that concept. I know it's difficult. It's not something that's in Tableau, but I really want to try and give it a go. So I was a little bit disappointed in myself last week for my presentation. I spent too long working on my Google makeover on my blog and left it too long to get into my presentation. So I thought, okay, this week, why don't I learn something that's kind of has a really good sort of visual wow impact and try and sort of focus on that, which is why I went for the Sankey. So, shall I show you? Yeah, I'll show you. I'll show you, and then I'll
quickly match up.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So hopefully this comes out on screen. So this is what I came up with after much tinkering.
This looks really nice.
Yeah, visually, I'm really, really pleased with it. So basically, what I did originally is I wanted to kind of replicate the other one. So I just took 2014 data. I really wanted to focus around Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, because to me, everything else is kind of noise, which I know is a little bit politically incorrect, but Nigeria has some particularly interesting stuff around people evading Boko Haram. Eritrea, which I did add in at the end, is turned into a little bit of a sort of North Korea type situation there. For me, there was a little bit of noise. I really wanted to focus around the sort of three well-known sort of war-torn countries and sort of where traditionally people expect refugees to be coming from. So initially, I went with just Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and I really wanted to focus just on where people were going to in Europe. So originally, I had people going from those three countries to everywhere in Europe. That didn't work out so well. You'll be able to see it yourself in a second. But basically, without a lot of tinkering, Sankey is not particularly intuitive in Tableau. So it took me a little while. You might notice now that this is in sorted by value, whereas originally it was just sorted in alphabetical order. So what happened was you had a little bit of Armenia at the top, because there were a lot of people that had gone to Armenia, or probably passing through. And then you had another country that begins with A, probably Austria. And then it kind of jumped down to Germany, and then you had a bit of Sweden, Netherlands, and then you just had lots of overlapping labels, and just too much on the graph. It was a little bit like the last one. There were just too many lines on there. So then I thought, okay, maybe I'll try and group those up into regions. So we'll maybe try and look at Southern Europe, Northern Europe, sort of Balkans region, the sort of politically incorrectly termed former USSR states. So I can imagine forgetting about it. But I still wanted to keep the by country view. So I had that in there originally. It's not still in there. That still didn't work. There was still too much data on the page. I still hadn't figured out how to sort it better. And the grouping just wasn't really working. So, okay, another stab. I'll maybe drop it down to the sort of top EU 10 countries in terms of GDP. When you do that, you pick up Russia and Poland. And I didn't really want to show Russia and Poland. Russia I don't really consider part of Europe particularly, and I didn't really want to show Poland. So, okay, let's cut it down to EU 8. So the EU 8 is the 4 countries you see on there, plus France, Italy, Spain, and Switzerland. UK, you can see, is really small at the bottom. France, Spain, and Italy were even smaller. And so basically you had great big Germany, great big Switzerland, a little bit of Netherlands, and then a great big lump of the other ones at the bottom. Still didn't work. So eventually I decided to just cut it down to Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Germany, Sweden, Netherlands, and UK. And then I decided to add Eritrea in the end, so it was quite interesting. And then I thought, I had to chat with a girlfriend. I thought, okay, I'm hoping it's kind of more on the explanatory side. You kind of look at it and you can see straight away. Lots of people move from Syria, or lots of people move from all the different countries to Germany, and then to Sweden, and to Netherlands. But so what, right? It's kind of, it's good. It's like a nice little infographic. Maybe you'd see it in a newspaper article, but it's not really, wasn't really enough for the presentation. So I thought, okay, I had to chat with Simona, and her suggestion was maybe look at some other years as well and kind of see some trends. So I thought I would do that. I put that in, and I quite like that. It kind of works. It helps show a bit of a picture, a bit of a trend. I put it into pages. It was really interesting. My girlfriend and I sat the other night, pressed play, and we kind of watched the trend, and it was really cool. But it doesn't work very well on the pages view, so I had to abandon that. I've kept the years in, but now I'm going to show you what another problem of a Sankey graph is. So let's zip all the way. So basically, I ended up looking back to the year 2000. So my first view was, okay, let's look at the post 9/11 world, and I thought, okay, let's start at 2000, and then we dropped it. So problem number 1, you can see straight away at the bottom. Labels just sit over the top of each other. Mm-hmm. Number 2, why are there now massive gaps? Just doesn't really work. So this number here, for example, if I hover over that, 25,000 people migrated from Iraq to the Netherlands. Cool. Let's look through to the next year. Next one, it's still people going from Iraq to the Netherlands, and it's still 25,000. This is 2001, so then we're post 9/11, and now you've got 73,000 people went to Germany. But hey, well, that looks exactly like 25,000 people going to the Netherlands.
So the scales
doesn't work.
Well, it's because they're percent to whole.
Yeah,
so it's kind of what the scale is showing.
Yeah. So that kind of stymied that. So I kind of focused. I kind of left it in there because it's an interesting trend. So it's an interesting trend just watching the numbers increase. So in 2001, which obviously is largely before anything happened in the Middle East, you had 64,000 people escaping Iraq, mostly because of Saddam Hussein, and people leaving Afghanistan. Next year, it suddenly jumps up to 145,000, 100. Kind of keeps going, keeps getting bigger, and they keep kind of moving around. And then we get to 2013, Syria jumps up, and 2014 suddenly Syria overtakes. And then we'll jump into 2015, where you can see again.
Incomplete, right?
Yeah, in the last one, this is most of these top blocks are 40,000. Jump into the final year, and comes up to 104,000 again. You kind of lose that contact. So as you might have just seen Carl pointed out, basically my presentation is a really good way of showing that Sankey's don't really work. Quite frankly, I think I still really like this. I think visually it looks really, really good.
Yeah, I think if you focus just on 2014, I think it works certainly better than the other years. Flip back over to your inspiration, and what do you see on the right-hand side? How did they group the countries?
How do you mean?
They have those gray bars to separate
they have the
countries,
gray bars.
right?
Yeah.
Where in yours, I don't know where Germany starts and ends.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit. I know intuitively it's every time I hit a green it starts over.
Yeah.
But I think having that bar on the right-hand side really adds that visual impact.
Yeah, I had it. The only issue is you can't separate them. So I could put a little white border in, but it really looked tough to be honest. I quite like the look, so I took it out. But exactly that's another point. So you can kind of just about guess, but
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah. So I put on some nice sort of functionality. You can click on anywhere and kind of see where they're going to. It doesn't show the other side.
Nice.
You click on there, and I sort of use that double colour trick we learned yesterday to try and.
So the idea there is when your highlight action, you only want it to apply to the Sankey and not to the other charts. So when you go into your action, untick the boxes for the charts that represent the.
I quite like it looking like this.
No, I'm saying with the right hand side green.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah. Okay.
The labels, you could fix your highlight action so it only applies to the Sankey.
Yeah, I put in the colours this morning, so it goes on sort of gradient colour scale as well, which I think. Yeah.
The only thing I'd say about gradient colour scale is the ones that are smaller are harder to see. So I would almost flip it around so you can see the.
Yeah, true, from distance. Yeah.
Then you've also got the red green mixed together. Got red at the top, green at the bottom. So
Yeah.
So Robin, we decided that next cohort we're definitely have to make sure we hire a colorblind person.
Okay. Positive discrimination.
Yeah.
How are you going to test that issue?
Yeah. And the last question of the day, what number can you see?
So I
really like the 2014 version.
Yeah,
really, if you can figure out how to get those kind of bars on the right hand side there to
I think it's quite visually impactful.
It is. It is definitely. Yeah.
I think yours is better than his in terms of.
It's simpler.
If it had the bars, and that's it.
It's better.
That's one of the biggest things about it. Yeah.
Makes it a lot.
I mean, you're basically focusing on your top 4 on the left and your top 5 on the right.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Yeah.
But to get here, I mean, literally, I've spent most of my time finagling with this to get the damn thing to work properly. And in the end, I've kind of forced it to 4 on one side and 4 on the other. So I do think, you can get something from it, but it's not, it's not easy to explore. It's you have to force a lot.
But you can see the same trends that we've all spied.
Germany's
taking a lot, Sweden's taking a lot.
Yeah.
But then you don't get that point.
If you could get it to work across the years and you could hit the play button, it'd be really good because you can really see the trends moving all the time. But basically, that's a word. Basically, don't use Sankeys in Tableau because they're really faffy. But it's been a really good learning exercise for me. As I say, I set out wanting to kind of bring something up that kind of worked really nicely on the screen. It's come back kind of to bite me in the ass because that's kind of all I had really. So
I think it would be really impressive, like in a newspaper or a really simple visualization where you get immediately a sense of the top four on the right and the left. It's really the simplest and colorful way to say it.
I think if you can get those bars on the right hand side for each of those countries, like those gray bars, that'll make it even more impactful. And then just take the year filter out, just stick it on 2014, and that's it.
I mean, that's one of the things that makes this one work so well is the breaks and everything.
I don't think you need the breaks necessarily, because you could put like a white border around them or something, and that'll
it doesn't look so good, but maybe we can have a look because it might be might just not been doing it right, but and then Ravi gave me a good piece of advice yesterday. He said he sort of
Ravi gave good advice.
Yeah, came across the same kind of thing of trying to run before you can walk really. Should have focused on trying to use some of the skills to try and use parameters, looking at some of the different kinds of slope graphs and stuff, rather than trying to just sort of jump in and do something really advanced. But kind of just came back a bit in the answer.
It's okay. That's part of the learning process.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I know not to do it again.
Really well done. Really well done. Good job. All right. Well, that wraps it up for this week. So thanks, guys. Good job. And next week, for those online, we're doing a customer project next week. So we will not be broadcasting the presentation. So we'll see you after the new year. Bye. Happy Christmas, I think they say here. Merry Christmas. Okay. All right.